The Lunaverse by Rainbow Double Dash. Episode 24, Secret of Andalantis by Ditzy Orange. Chapter 4. Ditzy watched in silence as therapist began to carefully remove Sea Lion's makeshift bandage, using her fins and mouth, surprisingly prehensile tail all at once.
Can I help you with anything?
She finally asked. Yes, bring me the blue jar, as well as one of the big pale blue seaweed leaf from the bag over there, said Therapist, pointing to a seaweed bag hanging in the corner. Then I'll need you to hold him down while I clean up his wounds. I don't want him fidgeting too much. Ditzy quickly located the jar in question, a hose-sized pot carefully carved from blue stone with sea shell used as a makeshift cork, as well as the bandage, apparently the same type of plant used by Sea Lion. These are very good at dissolving blood and accelerate healing. If you're ever wounded out in the kept forest, look for it to stamp any bleeding, explained Therapist, while Ditzy got into position. Sadly, we don't know how to make inexpensive mana potions. Therapist opened the pot and used her tail to pick up a green salve from it, applying it to the wounds of the sea pony male. As predicted, he started to flinch from the touch. Though Ditzy didn't know if the salve was stinging or simply the pain of being touched.
Is he gonna be okay?
Asked the concerned Pegasus. His wounds are superficial. They'll take time to heal, but they are not dangerous. He is mostly exhausted, probably having swam for a long time to escape pursuit, answered the sea pony leader. Ditzy was relieved, but she still frowned.
What's going on here? You talked about a war? What are those cow shark things and merponies attacking you?
Therapist sighed loudly as he began finishing bandaging Sea Lion's tail. Cow sharks are abominations, a strange fusion between sharks and all sorts of animals, both of the sea and dry land. As I said earlier, their nature is a mystery, as is their motivation in this conflict. But I do know they are dangerous brutes who work for merponies. She began, placing her jar back in its original bag. I can't provide answer on these creatures, but I can tell you about a current predicament, if you have the time. Ditzy gave the sea pony a sympathetic look and nodded. It all began roughly 100 years ago, when my great-grandmother was roughly my age. Back then, the merponies and us sea ponies lived in villages near one another. It wasn't a perfect peace, but every pony was generally enough to know. My grandmother was something of an archaeologist, obsessed with finding our ancestral home of Andalantis. One day, she had a breakthrough. She found the ruins of a trading outpost used when Atlantis still traded with dry ponies. In the ruins, she found a map, an incomplete one, mind you, but still an exciting discovery. The map showed the locations of other trading outposts from the perspective of the dry ponies. The map itself lacked the location of Atlantis, back during its glory days or otherwise. But it showed that such maps could have survived to our day, and a more complete map might be found at one of the other outposts. The merponies accused us of wanting to keep Atlantis for ourselves. They wanted us to give them the tablet. Discussions didn't go quite that well, from what I know, and soon sea ponies began to go missing, presumably taken out by the merponies. When my great-grandmother, some eldest mass, organized a parley with the merponies, they were instead met by one of them leading a squad of cow sharks. Half the party didn't make it back to the village. Soon afterward, the village was attacked, and its tablet taken. Sea ponies aren't warriors, and faced an army of cow sharks, there was nothing left to do but flee, scattered, leaving the ravaged village behind. Luckily, a copy of the tablet had been made, a possible peace offering to these merponies. A foolish sea pony managed to whip some of the survivors into a frenzy and lead them on an attack of the merpony village. None of them was seen again. After that, settling down became next to impossible, as cow sharks and the merpony handlers hounded us to every corner of the sea, scattering our already dwindling population to the four currents. Still today, we are mostly nomads, hiding until the cow sharks find us and then run away. Sometimes we meet survivors from other bands, like sea cucumber, or sometimes we find remains of a camp, like we did here. After my great-grandmother's passing, my grandfather and mother kept up their mission. My family has been exploring the various training outposts ever since, hoping to find Atlantis. While Cerberus had told her story, she had finished dressing the minor cuts and wounds found around the sea lion's body.
I assume you didn't find it then?
Said Ditzy, her ears drooping. None of the outposts had a map of the sea floor that showed where Atlantis used to stand. Without that information, it's not possible to figure out where it is now, began Cerberus, searching in another of her bags. However, I did recently find some interesting artifacts. The sea pony began to pull out a few items, mostly pieces of painted pottery, a few metal tools, hairpins, and what looked like a doorknob. She then produced a larger object and showed it to Ditzy, who was slightly confused for a second, before her eyes grew in size and gasped. The item was a large, bronze-colored metal square, roughly a foot wide on each side. At its center was carved a circle on it, and on that circle were lines, tiny points of various patterns. And one of the circle was somewhat more crudely than the rest. Some point had carved 3 concentric circles.
I know what this is! It's a star chart!
She said, a star chart. Ditzy nodded.
Yes, it's a way to navigate when out at sea or far from civilization. You use the stars to guide you. And this here, I've seen it in the brochure for the Cayo El Bayo Museum. It's the pony symbol for Andalantis.
Cerberus stared silently at Ditzy, her eyes the size of dinner plates and jaw hanging open. After a few seconds, she managed to get over her shock.
Can you read this map? Please, Miss Du. It would mean so much if you could lead us to Atlantis,
said the sea pony, taking hold of Ditzy's front hoof of her fin. Ditzy let down sorrowfully.
Sorry, I can't. Star charts get changed whenever Princess Luna reorganizes the heavens and moves the constellations around. There's supposed to be a trick to using the old charts, but I don't know what that is.
The two stayed silent for a moment. Well, you might not know, but maybe you could find someone who can, suggested the hopeful Cerberus.
Of course! My friend Trixie is Princess Luna's personal student. Maybe she can. All we have to do is find her.
The sea pony leader nodded. Yes, I'll assemble a group to escort you to go find your friends. They're probably looking for you by now, and I wouldn't want them to run into mer-ponies. And of course, what happens? The trio of unicorns had followed the excitable mer-pony for about 15 minutes by now, by Trixie's estimate, and he had changed course almost 20 times by now. Whatever path they were following, it was purposely complex. Their mer-pony was obviously following secret markers only she could spot. Trixie had tried to keep her eyes open for a repeating pattern on the rock faces, various seaweed formations they had passed out, but so far, nothing really seemed to stand out. Wherever they were going, some pony didn't want others to remember how to find it. A familiar white shape swam up next to Trixie and spoke in a hushed tone.
You don't really trust this little fish, do you?
She asked. Trixie shrugged as best as she could while following Rock Beauty.
I don't know. She seems genuinely happy to see us and to get to know us. Or that whole story about the enemies working with monsters to hunt them down,
asked the other unicorn. Trixie raised a confused eyebrow.
Is it really that hard to believe? Exotic creatures can look pretty monstrous if you don't know them.
I guess you do have a point there, but try not to make them think of our magic too much. It might come in handy to surprise some pony by suddenly moving objects without telekinesis. I find that if you don't remind them of it, most non-magical races will often forget about unicorns' potential prisoners, because in their own race can't pull the same tricks we can. Griffins rarely have magic-proof prisons, for example. Trixie balked at the explanation.
Miss Rarity, what? How?
The unicorn in question chuckled.
Oh, don't get too flustered, Miss Trixie. I didn't mean to imply that I've been incarcerated in the Griffin Kingdoms. Don't be silly. What would $1,000 designers such as moi be doing about in such a dreary place? I'm starting to think you read way too many spy novels, Miss Rarity, commented Trixie. But I guess I'll keep my horn for myself right now, if only so you don't bug me with your paranoia.
The white mare gave her a slight smile, and swam out to have somewhat similar conversation with their minty green companion. Lyra was just as trusting of rock beauty as Trixie, but similarly agreed to keep her spellcasting to a minimum, while in the company of the merpony. Not soon afterward, they drove toward the sandy seafloor and began to slow down between the rocks. Then go through a current of kelp before stopping in front of a rock face. The rock face was littered with barnacles, oyster, bright sea anemone. And the floor around it was home to half a dozen pony-sized clams. Rock Beauty looked around, making sure the coast was clear, before she used her hose to move one of the giant clams, revealing a tunnel in the rock face.
This way, my friends! Discoveries awaits!
She said, as though she was about to burst into song. Trixie was thankful that was not the case. Once the three unicorns entered the rock tunnel, Rock Beauty hid the entrance again, before resuming to lead her friends. The tunnel was lined with a type of bioluminescent algae that gave everything a creepy green glow. It was still fairly dark, but it was enough to navigate the tunnel the short way through to a distant shaft of sunlight. It didn't take long for the quartet to emerge into a large room, a room that turned out to be the hold of a sunken ship. The rock they had traversed was breaking through a significant portion of the hull and floor. The whole ship seemed to be listening towards them. Above them was a hole in the hatch that used to cover the way out into the hold, and it was as though the hole in the sunlight came into the old vessel.
"Wow, this is so cool!"
commented Lyra, looking around the wooden room.
"Yeah, we were pretty lucky to find this big ship. The tunnel was a pretty nice bonus since it means nobody can tell we live here,"
explained Rock Beauty with a big smile. Something caught the eye of the purple-maned unicorn as she moved in to investigate, finding a partially corroded silvery plaque lying in the sea floor. With her hose, she carefully cleaned up the plate.
"This ship was the HMS Comet. Apparently, it was christened around 150 years ago," she commented.
"Are you sure it's safe?" asked Lyra, eyeing the nearby support beam.
"Oh yeah, we've been here a month, and the place barely creaks. It's stuck between two large rocks to support and also protect it from the water currents. It's also pretty hard to spot from the wrong angle, especially now that we took down the old mast."
"Her," interrupted the pony that found an endpoint.
"You normally refer to a ship in the feminine." Rarity smiled. "I didn't know that. Nifty. So, where are the rest of your friends, then?" asked Trixie. "Just over there. Give me a second to get them ready,"
explained Rock Beauty, slipping over to a door miraculously still attached to one of its hinges at the end of the room.
"Hey, every pony, I'm back, and I got a surprise!"
she called, disappearing through the opening after opening the door.
"You know, darling, she could be setting us a trap." Trixie shook her head. "Don't be so dramatic, Rarity."
The other mare looked at Trixie with a dubious air.
"Of course I'm serious," said the irritated Rock Beauty, poking her head back into the room. "Come on in and prove to my friends I'm not lying."
Lyra beamed a big smile and eagerly swam on ahead, while her two companions rushed to follow her. They emerged into another part of the boat, this one featuring a rock face breaking through the hull, although on the opposite side of the previous room, it had a large crevice in which material had been stockpiled. The room was partially lit by sun filtering in through the cracks in the ship's structure, and by clusters of the same luminescent algae they had carried in the tunnel. The room featured a series of hammocks hanging between supporting columns, but most importantly, it featured a group of gaping, staring merponies. Trixie quickly counted 8. 9 if you included their guide. They had previously not expected their friend to bring back a trio of unicorns. Lyra floated there with a big smile, staring with fascination at a species she had long thought extinct. But, before she could say anything, a blue form swam before her, spreading her foreloads wide open.
"Greetings, brave merponies! The great and powerful Trixie is here to dazzle you with tales of the dry world. Come one, come all, and have all your questions about the strange world answered,"
she declared, further stunning the amassed sea ponies.
"I will forego the kitten and pot analogy for the moment, as there is no time to start singing accusations at one another. Great and automatic Trixie,"
she whispered to the white unicorn next to her. Luckily, the green one decided to go for a more personal approach.
"Hi, my name is Lyra, and this is my friend Trixie, and this is Rarity. Nice to meet you all." "See,
I told you I wasn't kidding. Isn't this amazing? Declared Rock Beauty. Let's do the introduction properly. These two are siblings, Triggerfist and Anglefist, she said, pointing to a black male and yellow female.
Just Angel explained to you,
said the mare in a soft voice, flushing slightly. This is Damsel, Tri-Strike Damsel, continued Rock Beauty, pointing to a pale blue female wearing a seashell necklace. Charmed, she simply said, flicking her paler blue mane to feature 3 black stripes. Stargazer, Halibut, Dusty Sack, the gray merpony continued, pointing to a white male, orange female, and violet male. All 3 of them waved back with a small smile. And those 2 are Fire Squid and Peppermint Strip, or Mitty for short, finished Rock Beauty, indicating a bright red male with a spiky mane and a really small, mousy-looking pale green female. This is pretty darn cool. I didn't believe Rocky here when she said that you guys could breathe on the water like us, but here you are, said Dusty Sack, getting closer.
And he just used magic,
pointing at his great counterpart, extending a hoof to Lyra. Radical! Do you know any other magic? He asked the minty green unicorn, before a white form blocked his vision.
Yes, magic is quite impressive, but let's not forget the real reason we are here.
Trixie nodded in approval.
We lost one of our friends. Her name is Ditzy, and she's a gray Pegasus.
Pegasus! Those the ones with the weird fins that swim in the sky, right? Asked Triggerfist.
They're called wings, and you use them to fly,
corrected her sister. Trixie was about to ask if any of these guys had seen Ditzy, when a new voice came from the ceiling. It was another female voice, one that sounded older and carried authority.
What is going on down here?
Trixie looked out to find that the ceiling had a hole, leading to what the unicorn expected had been the captain's cabin on the ship. In the hole was the head of another merpony. This one had dark blue in color, and her short-cropped mane was a brilliant shade of yellow that really contrasted her darker coat. Red Eyes whined at the sight of the 3 newcomers in her home.
One of you better come up here and explain to me what's going on, before I start hoofing out blames at random,
said the blue merpony, retreating into the hole. Rock Beauty got outside and floated up to the hole in the ceiling. Lyra was the first to ask the question.
Who was that?
That's Scylla, our leader, explained Dusty Jack. She's really strict about her security. Plus, she's always cranky if you interrupted her nap time. Don't worry, though. She's actually really nice once you get past the abrasiveness. Wait a sec! Scylla? Terribreness? Gotta give us fans credit. We certainly know our mythological creatures. There was a tense minute spent in uncomfortable silence, as nobody on either side really knew what to say, even Trixie. The 3 unicorns had shared a description of Ditzy, but sadly none of the merpony had seen her. Finally, Scylla reappeared and beckoned the trio to enter her parlor. The room was indeed the former captain's cabin. Large overturned desk lay in the corner. A space had been filled with beddings made out of kelp, while the drawer space had been used to store various bags of material. A large antique globe of the world had been jammed into one of the 3 large windows at the back of the cabin, preventing anything from entering or exiting through it, while the other 2 were barricaded with what remained of the captain's bed. Any other artifact in the room had been pushed out to one corner, having been judged of little value. Trixie couldn't help but notice that the captain's sword, still in its scabbard, was predominantly sticking from the pile of junk ready for use. This room, being closer to the outside world, was entirely lit by sunlight. Some of the beams of light were refracted by the few crystals left on an old chandelier, barely hanging from the ceiling, creating colored spots all over the room. From up close, Scylla looked somewhat taller, yet stockier than Rock Beauty. She certainly looked older. Her hard gaze reminded Trixie of nothing else but a strict schoolteacher that she had back in New Orleans. Considering some of the groups of fissies were called at schools, Trixie figured the image might not be too far off for the leader of this little band. Still, seeing her floating here, with hose crossed over her barrel, red eyes staring daggers at the 3 of them, was a tad unnerving.
You've really put me on a spot here, Rock Beauty. How am I supposed to react when you bring strangers into our secret hideout? Oh, come on, Scylla, they're not sea ponies, they're unicorns, pleaded Rock Beauty.
How do we know unicorns haven't struck an alliance with the sea ponies? Snapped Scylla. Now you've robbed me, and the rest of our group, the chance to decide if we wanted to show these strangers our presence home or not. May I remind you, finding a secluded hiding spot is not easy. Scylla sighed and looked back to Trixie and friends. My foolish little pony tells me you lost a friend. If it is true, then it is a tragedy, and I'll do what I can to help. We're not asking for much. Just know if you saw her, began Trixie, before explaining to Celia how they came to this area, for simple pleasure, and how their friend Ditzy had simply gone missing after swimming off. I found them following her trail at the ends of what we think is sea pony territory while on patrol, provided Rock Beauty. This could be a problem. Your friend could be in the clutches of sea ponies, probably being manipulated into helping them, or worse, commented Scylla, slipping to take a look through one of the opening brick wall. She could very well be trying to spot us from the sky right now, and I still have a scout in the about. Scylla was putting up a brave front, but Trixie could tell that underneath the hard exterior lay the heart of a worried mother. Now she thought of it, it turned out to be similar to that strict school teacher from her childhood in Princess Luna. Lyra put her up to her face. This whole mess is my fault! Why did I have to cast that spell? To think I even talked about Atlanteans earlier today, and how I got Ditzy stuck in the middle of a century-old war! You know something about Andalantis? Asked the merpony leader, whipping her head back to look at Lyra. Well, mostly legends, like about its fall and disappearance, replied the unicorn. The stuff your people told about it, at least. Scylla seemed to deflate slightly. Oh. For a second there, I let myself hope you knew where it was. If we could find Atlantis, then we could finally be safe from our enemies, she said. Speaking of war, what's with those sea pony guys? What's this we hear about monsters? Asked Trixie. The sounded quite Atlantis, added Trixie's white tag along. The cow sharks are no joke, said the blue-marine pony with a soft grumble. They took away too many of my friends, too many of my families. They are real, believe me. If you want, I can tell you the story of our current conflict. And the misery cow sharks brought to us. For those of you who guessed that the cow sharks had something to do with all this, congratulations. You earned $5. The three unicorns nodded, almost in perfect unison. Scylla took a deep breath and casted a glance at one of her bags, seeing a precious memento no one else could. It all began roughly 100 years ago. My great-grandmother was younger than I am now. Back then we had a proper home, a village with large houses where we lived with our full families. While we never really saw eye to eye since the Great War, we managed to gain a truce of sorts with the sea ponies. Small conflicts would arise here and there from time to time, but they would tend to be solved in harmless fair competition rather than all-out war. All that changed when my grandmother, something of an archaeologist, stumbled upon the old ruins from the era of Atlantis and a certain artifact. The merpony's story was interrupted when a new sheep bolted out to Singapore. This merpony was pale, almost white, green, with a much darker green mane that floated like seaweed behind her. She quickly began to swim around the leader. Scylla! It's terrible! Terrible, I say! Very bad! Just being terrible! The sea ponies, Scylla, the sea ponies, I saw some cow sharks while on patrol. It's bad. They did something really bad. She began to ramble, obviously in a panic. Lute, calm down. We have company. The one dressed as Lute stopped dead in her tracks, and her blue eyes locked on the trio of strangers, before nearly looked down her skull. More dry ponies! More? Oh yeah, I saw a sea pony with 2 cow sharks. Totally captured another one today, explained Lute. They knocked it out with a rock and dragged it out into the sinister hideout, though that one didn't have a seashell stuck to her forehead, and she had big red fins. Ditzy!